The moon is a mysterious card with an esoteric meaning of balance. Hello, I'm Michael J. Auger, creator of the Allcento Tarot, and today let's take a closer look at the 18th card of the Tarot's Major Arcana. In astrology, the moon rules the zodiac sign Cancer the Crab and is the patron of all things water-related. The indecisive way a crab crawls added to the moon's reputation of mental confusion and lunacy. However, in addition to being shadowy and deceptive, the moon also provides a clear way to measure time. The word month is derived from moon. Early depictions of this card, including the Ercole y Adeste and the so-called Charles VI deck, include astronomers with their measuring instruments. The moon reflects the light of the spiritual sun, and so it is good. However, this is reflected light and therefore distorted. Everything is not always as it seems in the tricksy moonlight, and so good aspects are balanced with bad. The Visconti-Sforza depiction of the moon card features a barefoot woman that some scholars suggest is a depiction of Luna, the female personification of the moon, and Roman equivalent of the Greek goddess Selene. She is also associated with Diana, Artemis in Greek. In her upraised hand, she holds a crescent moon, and her other hand appears to be tightening a loose drawstring. This adjustment being made can be seen as alluding to the ever-changing phases of the moon. In the background, on a hilltop, a building can be seen which some have suggested may be the Lighthouse of Alexandria, described by the ancient Greek scholar and librarian Callimachus. The moon's gravitational pull generates the tidal force that causes the changing ocean tides. A lighthouse is also symbolically similar to the Torch of Hecate, another Greek goddess with links to the moon. In some decks, including the Jacques Viville Tarot, the moon card depicts a woman sitting under a tree spinning wool to create yarn. She has been associated with one of the three fates who spin, measure, and cut the thread of life, but who are also sometimes linked with the phases of the moon. An illustration more common to the Marseille style tradition depicts a scene of a crustacean crawling upwards from the dark waters towards the moon. Occultists have interpreted the crustacean as representing our primitive nature, which rises from the lunar sea, or lunacy, towards the divine light. A pair of buildings are balanced on opposite sides of this card. A pair of canines, that some see as the hounds of Diana, also provide balance. Although they look identical at first glance, there are actually subtle differences. In folklore, dusk and dawn are known as the hour of the wolf, when dim light and shadows prevent us from knowing the difference between a dog and a wolf. In all of the Marseille-style card depictions, there are mysterious objects emanating from the moon. Some have interpreted this as dew that was once believed to be created by the moon at night. Others see it as light escaping from an eclipse. Both are interesting speculations, and it is important to remember the Hermetic tenet that every truth is but a half-truth, and find balance between the dual aspects of this archetype. Just as the star card can be seen to correspond to the virtue of hope, the moon card can be seen to correspond to the virtue of faith. With a spiritual understanding, we have faith in the truth that all is united, despite the veil of reality being as deceptive as the moonlight. The version of the moon card created by Oswald Wirth closely follows the Marseille-style tradition. However, a narrow red path is added to the design that leads up the middle of this card. Wirth describes this path as uneven land and warns that we must expect frequent falls and be wary of traps and hidden snares. Drops of blood are seen that were made by others who have gone before us on this dangerous exploration. The red path leads to a rewarding goal for those who persevere. At the bottom of this card is the dark domain of a crustacean that, according to Wirth, represents the past. The crustacean devours all that is rotten to provide order and allow escape from dead beliefs. The two canines are described by Wirth as defenders of the forbidden regions where the imagination wanders. The white canine on the left represents the spiritual and yaps at the impious who refuse to believe what is accepted as true. The black canine on the right represents the material and howls at the revolutionaries with subversive plans. Although these canines may instill us with fear, the pilgrim with a firm step is able to find balance walking between them and is not bitten. The middle path is also included in the version of this card created by Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith. The dewdrops have been turned into what appears to be yods, similar to the Tower card in this deck. They may correspond to fire or menstrual blood. In this depiction, the moon is illustrated as a waxing crescent that Waite describes as increasing on what is called the side of mercy. The face of the moon is depicted as feminine, with eyes shut, suggesting an inward and spiritual experience. The moon provides balance between the sky and the sea and brings the unconscious into consciousness. According to Waite, the moon illuminates our animal nature, represented by the canines and crustacean below, and acts as a guide. However, the intellectual light is a reflection of the unknown mystery beyond. The moon card of the Thoth deck is a spooky interpretation, but whatever horrors may afflict the soul, excite the loathing heart, or terrorize the mind, Aleister Crowley still sees it all as a splendid adventure. The artwork by Lady Frida Harris makes a few changes, but for the most part stays true to traditional imagery. There are 2 canines and 2 towers. However, standing between are twin figures of the Egyptian god Anubis, described as the Watcher of the Twilight, as well as the god that stands in balance at the threshold of life and death. Each Anubis twin holds the phoenix wand of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a symbol of resurrection that happens after we conquer the demons of the subconscious. The waning moon at the top of this card is partially eclipsed by a blue sphere that might represent the Earth, with a red stroke that resembles the Hebrew letter Kaf that the Golden Dawn linked with this card. The meaning of this letter is the back of the head. This corresponds with the part of the brain known as the cerebellum that regulates pleasure and fear responses. Also, being at the back of the head, it correlates with the unseen and subconscious. The Golden Dawn also linked this card with the zodiac sign of Pisces, the 2 fishes. This sign is ruled by Neptune, the Roman god of the sea. The creature at the bottom of this card, crawling out of the sea, is a water spider, meant to represent a scarab beetle that is symbolic of the Egyptian god Khepra, the god of the sun at midnight. It carries the sun out of the dark water. Crowley describes this scene as doubtful, mysterious, and intoxicating. And here's the depiction of this card as seen in the Allcento tarot. In this version, the moon is personified as the triple goddess Hecate, Selene, and Artemis, who represent the 3 visible phases of the moon and act as guardian, guide, and gatekeeper. Although she may be deceiving, we must pass through her school in order to not be fooled by her phantasmagoria. In order to achieve balance, we must learn to distinguish and appreciate opposite forces. She stands at the red crossroads of the middle world between the black subconscious waters below and the white celestial realm above. She holds torches to guide, a snake and dagger to guard, and keys that unlock secret knowledge for the worthy. Flanking her are canine guards who will attack those that cling to the ego. Crawling upwards towards her is a crustacean, representing our lower nature. It crawls up out of the dark lunar sea, and this is another test to stay on the path that leads between the towers. The towers represent ethereal spirituality and grounded science. Although they have separate domains, each enhances the other. There's ebb and flow between the mystical and the factual. With patience and faith, we are able to master our passions and achieve balance and receive transcendental knowledge. Our journey continues next with the brightest card in the deck, the sun. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to share your support. And as always, you can find out more about me and the Allcento Tarot at my website, offbeatartwork.com. Until next time, brightest blessings on your spiritual journey.